Okay. Hello and welcome everybody to the High Ground podcast. You'll probably notice that I look a little bit different. It's because I'm having some technical difficulties. I'm going to be playing around with some stuff in the background to see if my face can't pop back up. But until then, I wanted to jump in here and introduce my amazing group of guests. How's everyone doing?
Doing good. How about you?
Yeah, I have had better days. And since I restarted, all of my notes are gone for now, but that is perfectly okay. Let me just see here. Yeah, we're gonna start by going around and just ask everyone, who are you? Where can we find you in all of your content? And for an icebreaker, I'm going to have you guys put together your own big three, but you got to pick someone from each era. So curious who you all are going to go with. I'm going to start with Anthony first.
Okay. I'm Anthony of Ready Comics Roll. You can find me on YouTube, TikTok, Twitch, Twitter, and Instagram. A lot of alliteration there. I would have to say if I had to choose three individuals to go on an adventure with, I'm going to be a little biased here. I'll have to say Obi-Wan Kenobi from the prequel era, Luke Skywalker from the original trilogy era, and then Finn from the sequel trilogy era.
Okay, that's fair. Any particular reason? It sounds like a real goody group.
Well, I mean, for anybody who knows me, that's part of the reason why. I'm very vanilla good guy. Like, I cannot do a bad guy playthrough in any RPG. Like, I'll try, feel really bad, and then restart the save. But I just feel like Obi-Wan, I would say, yes, as he's older, a lot of people would say that's in his prime. But I would argue, at least to some extent, in the prequel era is probably where you could learn a great deal from him. Luke Skywalker, I mean, there's so much that I could say about Luke Skywalker. He's definitely a hero that I grew up with. But just the amount of faith that he has in other people and the fact that he can fail, recognize his failure, and then grow from that. It's just a very inspirational figure. And then, of course, Finn. Well, Finn's partially for me and also partially for Finn because he never got the chance to be the Jedi that he should have been. So that way he can go ahead and learn from both Obi-Wan and Luke Skywalker. And I also just think that Finn would just be a lot of fun, and I could relate to Finn in a lot of different ways. So he'd be almost like a brother.
Awesome. I love it. And thank you for coming through. This is your first time here on the podcast, and I'm hopefully will not be your last. So thank you for coming in. And then next we have Goldman, another first timer over here, but always loved your content on
Thank you. So you can find me on only YouTube and I guess Twitter, but mostly YouTube. That's where I'm not on a bunch of different platforms, just YouTube. So the question, which characters would we like to go on an adventure with from each era?
Yeah, if you're building your big three, yeah.
Okay. Now, does it have to be the trilogies, or can I expand to just the era as a whole?
The era as a whole.
Okay. So I'm gonna try and have a lot of fun and choose characters that would make me laugh. So from the prequels, I'm gonna choose Jar Jar because Jar Jar is just hilarious. From the original trilogy era, I'm gonna choose AP5, the Squidward droid from Star Wars Rebels. He's the most underrated character, and I love him. And then from the sequel era, I'm going to choose my boy Claude, who is this guy, if you've never heard of him. He's from The Rise of Skywalker. He has 34 seconds of screen time, if you missed him. He's the one on the Falcon that screams, and he's the armless engineer. So he's the reason why the Resistance was able to beat Palpatine in the first place. So yeah, I think that squad would have a lot of fun.
That's awesome. I love it.
I love that my character that had like 30 seconds. It was like, that's the cutout I need.
Yeah, he's the mascot of my channel. The Claude Squad is what I call it.
No, with that, I mean, it makes me think of a friend of the channel, Mateus Ward, who is just obsessed with the character. So you guys would get along great.
So much.
I'm sure we would.
And how about you, Rayburn?
Sure. I'm Rayburn. You can catch me on TikTok and on Twitch. Spelled a little bit differently, but same gist. My big three. I mean, CGI Yoda, Puppet Yoda, and then CGI Puppet Yoda. There we go.
That's a good one.
But if I had to give an actual answer, I'm going the exact opposite of Anthony. I'm going Darth Maul, Vader, and then Kylo Ren, specifically in the first of his movies. I just want to see, just go. I want to see what they do. We'll never run into issues.
Meet me outside the Moss Eisley Cantina.
Yeah.
No, that's beautiful. Also, I think this is your first time on this podcast, but we have talked before on some Marvel stuff, so that's been a lot of fun. And then returning favorite, we got Miss Aggie. How about you?
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Oh, thank God. Okay. If I'm having the same technical difficulties I had on Harriet's podcast a couple weeks ago or a week or so ago, then I'm gonna just take my headphones out and keep my phone plugged in. But we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. But yeah, hi guys. My name is Miss Aggie. Thanks for having me on Chaco. Anything. I would cancel my own funeral to be on this podcast. You kidding me? But yeah, you can find me on TikTok. I'm Miss Eggy on TikTok. That's me. I'm also Miss Eggy28 on Twitter. And that's pretty much it for me. My big three, this is just because I want it. This has nothing to, they would be good in a fight and in an adventure, I guess, but I just want to see Luke, Anakin, and Ben Solo interact. What would that be like? Like them in their youngest selves, the prime of their lives. That would be really, really fascinating. I would really like to see I would do nothing. I would just observe and be a passive observer and just be I just want to be there for that family reunion, I guess. So I'll go with them.
Awesome. All right. Well, for me, obviously, if you guys are here, you know where to find me and whatnot. But my good friend Emlyn7 and I also have a separate podcast called Diet in the Force. So always check that out. We're doing the finishing of our trivia contest where someone's winning a lightsaber from Level Up Lightsabers. And so that's going to be really fun. But for my group, I'm going to have to roll with Hondo Ohnaka.
Yes.
Hera, just because how irritated Hera would be by him and how entertained I would be by that whole situation, as well as Old Man Han. It just sounds like a chaotic group.
Absolutely.
And I'm here for it.
My favorite Han. That's my favorite.
Just sick of this Han.
I think old Han and Hera would get along.
I agree. Young Han and her would have conflict, but old Han would just be over it. You know what I mean? He's just extra chill.
They would be those friends that are just formed by complaining. They don't know anything about each other. They just complain in the unit.
And I'm not sure if they've technically met, but I feel like Han and Hondo would know each other.
Yeah.
They've heard of each other for sure, at the very least.
Definitely.
All right. Well, so we'll kind of jump into it. Let's talk about what if. And I'm curious because I believe all of you guys are watching it. What do you guys think of Marvel's What If right now? We had a new episode. If you haven't seen it, that's okay.
No spoilers for the new
good.
one, please.
I haven't seen it yet either. I've only seen episode 1 and 2.
Okay. We'll keep it at 1 and 2 for now, but I'll go to Goldman first and ask you what are your thoughts of Marvel What If?
So I watched the first one with Captain Carter. I enjoyed it. I'm a Marvel fan, but I'm not a super big Marvel fan. I didn't watch the second one. I don't even know what the second one was. What was the second one? Just an overall synopsis.
Second one was What If what if Chadwick Boseman was taken? T'Challa.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
T'Challa Star-Lord. He's a way better Star-Lord.
And then I watched the third one this morning, which I'm not sure if we can get spoilers, but it's okay. I think I'm gonna watch the episodes that like involve my favorite characters. So I get curious about these kinds of things, but it's not something I'm super into. It's not like something I wake up and I'm like, oh, I need to watch this. Like I was on Twitter, I saw a clip of today's What If, and I was like, oh, you know what? I'll watch it, and it was enjoyable. So I like it.
Nice. Well, one thing I will say is they are weaving together a solid narrative for that particular universe. So you might want to watch all of them, or you might get lost. But
do they all are all the What Ifs part of like the same universe?
Not quite. It's like they will come together eventually.
Okay.
They're still separate. It's a whole story of the multiverse.
Okay.
That's what it comes down to. At least right now.
I'll watch the second one then. I like Black Panther.
And how about you, Raven?
I am a very big Marvel super fan, and in the comics, I always loved the what if sorts of stories. So like, as soon as this was announced, I was just going nuts. I've been enjoying it. I watched the newest episode as soon as it came out. Very late watching that, but I love it, and it's just like you said, it's all weirdly connecting, and it's just playing into the multiverse, and I'm just so excited to see everything else that's going to happen in this.
Yeah, I mean, there's tons of like crazy potential ramifications, especially for the one that came out today. But let's actually add to it, and at the end, I'll come back to you, Goldman. Mm-hmm. I'll add the next question. Do you think Star Wars needs a what if show? And Rayburn, what do you think?
I think so. I've always personally thought that Star Wars does like really well when you kind of branch out, because the universe is ginormous. You know, that's why like I love The Mandalorian. It was like a different sort of slice of it. I would love a what if. Be like, hey, you know, the universe is vast, and it could have really gone any other way. So I would love that sort of deal.
Yeah, well, I can definitely see that. And how about you, Miss Eggy?
I've been really loving it. I mean, I just love animation. So if it's animated and it's not like kind of typical 3D animation, it's like, I know it's like what is it called? Cell shading.
Cell shaded, yeah.
Yeah. Cell shading is not my favorite, but I think the show looks incredible. Like I'm very impressed with it. And yeah, anything that's more kind of like in like a 2D style, like I'm there 100%. I'm a 90s kid, so like yes. So I love animation. It looks beautiful. They're very well directed. They're so fun. I've been really enjoying them. And I just like I think my favorite element was from the first episode, which we've all seen, correct?
Yes.
Okay. I really liked how the implication was it doesn't matter who went in the pod, like Steve and Peggy still fall in love. I was like obsessed with that. I was like, oh my God. Like I just loved that so much. I thought that was so cute. We love a man who loves a big, strong lady. And so I've been really enjoying them. What if for Star Wars? What if, you know, I have two answers. My initial is yes, absolutely. I want a Star Wars what if show, but like this fandom is so horrible that I feel like they would do a what if show and then people would just find something to complain about. I mean, we're getting Star Wars anime for God's sake, and people were like, I don't like it. I'm like, I hate it here. I hate it here. Like you all suck. So, but you know what? Like I'll still throw him a bone. I'll say yes. Give me a what if show, because I would love to see all manners of situations. So yes, please.
Awesome. And then also, real quick, sorry, I was not trying to ignore the chat. I just was managing multiple things as I was speaking. The reason I asked if there was double in the chat is because I'm essentially logged in twice to it, so I'm hearing everything double and delayed. It was just freaking out my brain. But X-Core Gamer Show says T'Challa as Star-Lord was absolutely amazing. Camilla Butterco Wookie says, "Man, the second episode made me cry a lot."
Yeah.
And it's cool that they're getting a lot of the original actors to come back for it, and obviously, some were recorded earlier than others. Oh, you're here. It's Taserface. Are you really surprised? I loved it. Levi Bond in the chat as well. Everyone loves Controller Star Wars. Conspiracy Cantina dropping some love. The unofficial sponsor. Awesome. Another awesome podcast. They are bi-monthly. Extra Gamer Skills, who I mentioned earlier, is on it, as well as Jedi DePaul. But yeah, we have Isaac saying, "I think a What If show would be way more interesting for Star Wars, actually." I kind of feel that. How about you, Anthony?
It's a double-edged sword when you think about it. Just to harp on what everybody else has kind of already said, because it's always fun to speculate. It's always kind of fun to see these different scenarios, and I mean that's pretty much been proven with Marvel's What If. But on the same note, it could also be very touchy and also kind of galvanize the toxic part of the fan base, because based on what they do with the What If story, they'll be like, "See, this is why Rey shouldn't be canon," or
Yes.
"See, this is why they should have went this route," and so on and so forth. And we don't need that. We have enough problems as it is.
Bring back the Snyder Cut.
Stop.
I mean,
Stop.
and if you think about it, a lot of the EU, a lot of Legends is What If stories at this point. So we kind of already have that, but maybe to animate some, I don't know. I think there's definitely pros and cons to either side if you look at it.
I agree.
Nice. All right. And Goldman, this question I added, does Star Wars need a What If?
Does it need one? No, it doesn't need one, but I would love if they had one. Because I used to be a huge canon junkie. Like, if you can tell, I have almost all of the books and the comics on my bookshelf. So I used to be big into, like, canon and all that. I just love everything connecting. But then once the Lego Holiday Special dropped last year, I was just like, you can have so much fun if you're not worrying about it making complete sense and it like making sure it doesn't contradict some book somewhere. Although Dave Filoni doesn't care about that anyway. But like, I'm so excited for the new Lego Halloween special. Like seeing Poe and BB-8 go to Mustafar at a like Darth Vader resort. That just sounds so like funny. I love it. So in the What Ifs, I think I actually disagree with you guys about. I mean, granted, I've been surprised by what this fandom will complain about before, but I think if you just not address, but like do certain topics. Actually, no, I take it back because I was about to say I don't know how people would complain, but people always find a way to complain about things. But I don't think if you're Lucasfilm, you can't worry about what you can't always worry about. Is this going to make a bunch of people upset, especially a certain group of people? Because if that's always in the back of your mind, then you're going to end up only making very safe content, and it's only the risky content that offends a lot of people. Not only, but usually. But it's also the risky content that makes everyone love the franchise even more. So I wouldn't want Star Wars to just be safe all the time. And I think just a What If just sounds so much fun. Like, and I think it would be a little more interesting than Marvel. And I could be wrong in this, but it seems like since the Marvel movies, there are a lot of like standalone stories. Like a certain What If moment wouldn't change the entire narrative. But with Star Wars, like if you change one thing from the Phantom Menace, that could affect everything going forward. Or if you change one thing from the originals, then it could affect everything going forward. And we'll get into some of the things that we'll talk about later. So I think it would just be so much fun and I would prefer like a What If story that kind of like just goes over like the different years. Like what if Anakin didn't kill Mace Windu, right? Or didn't chop off his hand and he stayed on the light side. Then the ramifications going forward, like what would Luke and Leia be like as grown adults living not under the Empire, right? I think that stuff is so amazing, and you can do some ones that are a little serious, or you can do ones that are a lot of fun. I would prefer them to just have fun with it and not be like super serious, like this would have to happen if this happened. No, just have a lot of fun with it. So I would be totally down with a What If show, and you can't worry about what a certain sect of the fandom will react about.
Yeah, mean, I agree with that, and I think largely they aren't worried. Now, I think at one point they did try to, of course, correct or make people happy, and it made them
definitely
matter. And then they're just like, all right, whatever. No, I agree that I think Star Wars would probably be the best place for a what if because of how, it's far more interconnected because, when it comes to Marvel, this is all like a singular generation. So we wouldn't, like you said, Goldman wouldn't have the echoes decades into the future like we would here.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I actually do think this would probably be the best place for it. I hope, because I'm a huge canon junkie, but I'm also a huge Legends fan as well. I'm never going to stop reading Legends. So, yeah, it's nice to be able to play in a different sandbox. That's exactly what we're getting with Legends. I mean, not Legends, Visions.
Mm-hmm.
And if Visions is successful, hopefully we can keep something going with that, and maybe have that be, even if they did a what if where it's anime style. That way, it kind of keeps people separated. You know
what else I think could be really cool? I think when a lot of people think of what if, they think of like a certain event that just changes and it affects the story going forward. But like, what if they did what if stories like what if Jason Solo met Ben Solo, right? Like that would never happen in either universe. But I think it would just be a cool scenario because they're both very similar characters. So I would love different what if stories that aren't necessarily like would have fit in a canon, but like just interesting. Like what if this person fought this person? I think those would be cool stories.
So you want like the universes collide type thing?
Yeah, that would. I think that would make a lot of fans happy. At least I blissfully hope.
I mean, only time will tell, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just checking. Can everyone still hear me? Okay, I had some mic sources and stuff as well. All right, perfect.
Definitely.
All right, so let's jump into the scenarios, and of course, I want this to be conversational. What someone pitches their what if, and we all just kind of chat about it. And I'm having us pick ones from each era. So, and I'm just going by release. So I'm curious what you guys have for original trilogy pitches first. And can you hear me, Rayburn?
Yeah, I can. Sorry about that.
Okay. I was going to go to you first, and then you disappeared. But what do you have for original trilogy? What if?
Original trilogy. What if? All right. So this was something that I didn't actually come up with. I saw on ArtStation, which, if you don't know, is basically professional artist DeviantArt. It's kind of what it is. Somebody made an entire drawing, and I've been obsessed with it since I saw it years ago, of what if Luke had betrayed everybody on Endor and began in the family business. And I have been obsessed with that just because knowing what was originally planned in the first couple of drafts for Luke, they were going for a more darker ending in the original draft before they, made it what we know. I am obsessed with the idea of really Luke following in his father's footsteps in that way, kind of lying and waiting and kind of pulling the same thing that Anakin did of just, now I'm going to execute my plan. None of you will see it coming. You thought I was this hero, and now I will be your greatest villain. And I have been obsessed with that idea, and especially on Endor, this really more joyful part that, while there's a lot that, obviously there's questions that go with it, but I just love the idea of right before they think everything's going to start with the battle, Luke just is like, this was never going to happen. I am just setting you up.
Ooh.
I
love it. So, I love it.
Isaac asks, so like, did Luke and Vader overthrow the Emperor, or he took Vader's place? Or in my mind, they make it feel like all the same things happen, and Luke goes back to Endor, and like during the celebration, he like puts on the helmet, and people like we get a hallway scene in the middle of the forest.
but it's teddy bears instead of
Oh, God.
soldiers. No.
So, granted, it's been quite a few years since I watched the original trilogy with that, but the idea that was shown into the one that I come up is before the battle ever began. Luke, let's say Luke executed his plan with Vader. Vader got into his head. It was, the Luke in the black jacket that were all like, he's gonna turn bad. He did turn bad. There's no change of heart. And so they come up with some scheme to like get everybody on Endor, and right as they're like, okay, Vader's coming, he's coming, but we are not fighting. This is ending before it ever begun. And I always love that like sort of twist and knowing maybe what would happen in the future. There's no Battle of Endor. The Resistance has ended before really it's begun that big final end. Yeah, the ramifications. Father and son now working together.
Yeah, that's terrifying. But I'm sure the Ewoks would be happy.
They seem very important. Like they don't really care what happens either way. But I'm a big fan of those like really flipping of expectations and like such like a wholesome character like Luke just flipping and it's like I am the complete opposite than the original. I'm super into.
Yeah, I like that. I'll take any excuse for dark side. Anything. So I love that. No. He's like, no, boo.
It would be so painful seeing Luke go to the dark side, but it would be interesting.
It would.
I'm a big fan of hearing. I'm a big person that likes knowing like what original drafts were and stuff like that, and especially with knowing, especially like knowing what was originally planned for the original trilogy. That really, in Mark Hamill's own words, it seemed like he was following Vader's footsteps. Like I would love to see what would have that been like if it kind of kept to that idea, not execution, but idea.
Well, it's interesting because if we're adhering to the canon somewhat, and Luke turned evil and teamed up with Vader, then it's safe to assume they would team up against the Emperor. The Emperor would die, but because of everything with the sequels and that he has like his contingency plan of him being a clone, he would eventually come back with those Star Destroyers and try to retake the Empire from Luke and Vader.
But on that same token, the Empire would probably be pretty beefy then. I mean, that's one of the reasons for Operation Cinder is to burn it to the ground so he wouldn't have to compete with it. So we end up with this huge galactic war with two empires.
Basically, the Empire is the Empire and the Rebellion.
Yeah. Like, it would just be so interesting, especially, like we were saying, like the ramifications that you were talking about earlier of just like, how does this change everything moving forward? And I think of like the now trilogy. I never know if they call it the current, but like in that case, it's like we have a new like group, and it's like no, now it's always been the Empire. It has always been. Yes, maybe there might be a new resistance group. How kind of like circles back in, but like you have basically you would have no Kylo Ren. You would have, probably, when Anakin began with the younglings, Luke and him would go and continue. Luke be like, hey, we're going to just pop up. We gotta go look around. Be so interesting.
It's like some Man in the High Castle shit.
Yeah.
It's like some real dystopian energy. I mean, it's interesting because it's like, because of like what sort of the tone that's Marvel has set. I was thinking about this the past couple of days, and I was like, all of my ideas were like big game changers, kind of like that. But like it also can be like little things too, like little swaps. Like I was thinking about like, what if on the topic of what was originally supposed to happen, like my two ideas for the original trilogy were, what if Han died at the end of Empire like he was supposed to originally? Like that would be kind of fun, which is like that's not a minor change, but I mean, compared to I think some of the other ideas like going around in my head, it was minor. And then of course my big one is like I'm always flipping characters. I'm always flipping characters around. So I'm like, what if Luke and Leia had swapped roles? What if Leia was the protagonist or the main protagonist, and she saved Anakin, and Luke was the prince of Alderaan, and they go to save him in A New Hope, and and he finally gets to be gay, and it like that kind of stuff. Like I always have like those kinds of ideas. Like I love like kind of just taking characters and moving them around to be really fun. Or like what if like Vader, Anakin was going to save Luke? Like what if it was kind of like a sequel trilogy kind of situation with Han and Ben, but it was flipped? Like what if Anakin was good and his son Luke had fallen to the dark side? Like that'd be fun too.
That would. Also, I love that you mentioned the Han one, because my other one was, what if Greedo was a better shot and shot Han? So I was like, can you imagine? It's just like, that's it.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, a lot of ramifications.
Yeah, just that first scene, and he just goes like, well,
Han's establishing that the inclusion of Han's establishing scene would be so confusing then. It'd be like, why do you have this whole scene? He's dead. It doesn't matter.
It would be reshot, but from Greedo's perspective, and like Greedo just got a payday or whatever. No, on the topic of what if Luke and Leia swapped. I mean, I shared this before, but I have no choice but to share it again. Of a this is my thoughts of Luke's fashion sense.
Iconic.
If Luke grew up on Alderaan, Mr. Chanel boots, I pictured this is him, on Tatooine trying to find Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Oh my God, I'm obsessed. I love it so much. He looks incredible.
I feel like if the two characters were swapped, the story would be completely different just because of the personalities of the two. Because Leia is just so much more like headstrong than Luke is. So I could totally see her like running away from Ben and Beru. Or even if like they were, and like Luke's a little bit more passive. So like, could he be the strong senator that Leia was? Would he even be in politics? We don't know.
Yeah, it's a good question.
It's a whole nurture versus nature argument. Also, shout out to Han Talks First. He's a good guy. Has a great podcast. I've been blessed to have joined it before. Going to have you on here as well, buddy. But yeah, awesome. Well, how about you, Anthony? What's your what if scenario?
So it's funny because I was all goody two shoes in my choice of party, but my original trilogy what ifs are kind of darkest timeline stuff. So one of them being is what if Red Red didn't malfunction? The R5 or as what do you refer to as the R2 unit? Because that was I'm a big fan of linchpins in storylines, things that would actually alter the course of an entire story. Because an R2 still would have had the restraining bolt, R2 still would have stayed with the Jawas, and we all saw how a lot of that turned out. So it means that there's a very good chance that Luke never would have saw Ben. Luke never would have went to the cantina. A lot of that stuff never would have happened.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting because if Luke never got R2, then assuming he probably would have never left Tatooine in the first place. So
Stormtrooper still would have visited. That's why I said darkest time.
The Empire probably would have found R2 because they did end up going to the remember, they slaughtered all the Tusken Raiders. So they would have found R2. They probably would have got the plans. Leia would be dead. Alderaan would have exploded. But the Rebel base would have remained a secret.
That much is true.
So there's that.
The other
and now
one,
I'm sad.
See? Look. Went from the goody two-shoes to what made everybody depressed. The other one was, actually, here you go, to be even darker, is what if Han never found Luke on Hoth?
Oh.
Yeah.
Because then, well, that's how you could kind of have these set up more towards Leia becoming more of the hero. And it could be that, through the Force, it could be that Leia is the one that's reached out to go to Dagobah. because she was still Force sensitive, that may have been like kind of the moment where it really needed to click in.
Yeah. And also, I mean, we have the whole the Force's kind of almost self-correcting nature that, you know, some other champion would arise at some point, whether or not that is Leia, or maybe someone else in the future. I like to believe it would be Dak Ralter, just because.
I also feel like if Leia was the hero, though, like it would have been done in one movie. Like
Yeah.
like Leia's like no nonsense. Like she's like, all right, yeah, got it. Okay, okay, it's done. I did it. Like Leia would get it done in 2.5 hours. Luke's on Dagobah, like, nah, like just wandering around, like being like, that's grass, and Fiona's like, we're all doomed. Great,
But
I love this.
But would Leia make the effort to try and redeem Vader?
No, she
No.
didn't.
Exactly.
No, she'd
No,
murk him
no,
in
no.
a second.
She would kill him. Yeah.
This movie it would only be one movie.
Yep. She just like freaking
Very
just
true.
clothesline him and he'd be like, I did
Yeah.
it. Let's go.
Yeah, Luke would be like, listen, like we gotta talk, and he's like, no, I'm not talking to the robot man.
Yeah. Talking to the robot man.
Well, I mean, because, you know, especially if you read Bloodline, I mean, Leia very much had a father, and her father was Bail Organa. She loved him very much,
Mhm.
and so
Ding.
she wouldn't have been looking for that father relationship. And
Very true.
she also, you know, if she made it to Dagobah, wouldn't leave training to go save Han or anyone else.
No.
No, she would have completed her training.
No, she would have done it.
Actually, I don't know. Would she have went to go save Han? If she had feelings for him, she might have.
Well, it depends. If we're going based off of the Han never found Luke, then there's the possibility that they still would have formed that relationship, and that would definitely make things a little bit more interesting. But I don't know. Leia seems like she's more
Leia
duty
seems
before.
yeah, big picture.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I see Leia saying, "I really like him. Good luck. I hope I see him again."
He'll be fine.
Yeah.
He'll be fine.
How about you, Goldman? You have a OT what if?
So when I was thinking of my what ifs, I was trying to think of like what's the smallest little change that would just impact a lot of things going forward. So I was thinking of was what if Luke never found out that Leia was his sister? Like he talks to Obi-Wan on Dagobah, he just doesn't mention his sister. And I feel like Return of the Jedi plays out pretty much the same. I mean, yeah, there's the scene where Vader is kind of tempting Luke by saying he'll turn Leia to the dark side instead of him. But I feel like the events mostly would have played the same. Like Vader at some point would have had a choice to either save Luke or just stay with the Emperor, and he would have saved Luke. But now where it gets interesting is what happens afterwards. So Leia doesn't know she's Force sensitive, but she still gets with Han, and they still have a kid in Ben Solo. We'll assume that still happens. But he's still very powerful. If Palpatine's still around, he doesn't know that Ben Solo is part of the Skywalker bloodline, so he doesn't try to corrupt Ben Solo. And assuming Ben Solo still is really strong with the Force, Leia and Han might send him to go train with Luke, since he's the Jedi. But since he doesn't have a Snoke or a Palpatine in his voice trying to corrupt him, he never turns to the dark side. And then maybe Rey shows up somehow and she's evil. So I don't know. I like thinking about all these loopholes from just a small little change. It'd be like the hidden identity of Jon Snow, except it's with Leia.
Yeah.
I mean, I just like the Dark Rey aesthetic, and it should come back just in general without the teeth. Not
I gotta keep the teeth. Yeah.
No deal.
Yeah,
I mean, you do you.
She's just so cute.
No, I love it. Let's Cal Forward here. Sorry, late. Miss Eggy in the house.
Hi, Cal.
So that love triangle would get real awkward. real
Yeah,
fast.
that's what I was thinking. I was like, ugh. Luke's still like, I got a shot. It's like, no, please no.
All right, well, why don't we go ahead and jump into the prequel trilogy? And I know you just went first, Rayburn, but I know you got to leave soon.
Mhm.
So, Rayburn does have her Twitch stream, which is amazing. Don't go over there until we finish here, but afterwards,
I will kick you
go
out.
over there. Okay.
Take all the guests with her.
But yeah, let's go ahead and hear what you have for the prequel trilogy.
Yeah. So for the prequel trilogy, one of the biggest ones that I don't think I'm like the only one who's had this thought, but I like the big moments. What if Obi-Wan won his duel with Obi-Wan?
Near the Anakin.
Anakin. I was up very late to watch What If. What if he had won the duel? What would that have been like? You know, if you want to talk about ramifications, without Obi-Wan, really kind of like a lot of the story would have to shift. You know, how Luke is brought in, how Luke learns about the Force. You know, Obi-Wan was kind of that good angel on his shoulder as well. How would that have made Anakin? How would that have turned Anakin when he like really does make that transition into Vader? You know, obviously the death of Padme impact him greatly. You know, the woman you love, but what about like really his brother in all of this? If he had to kill him, how would that have messed him up even more? Would he be more ruthless? You know, and all of this sort of stuff. And I'm interested in how that would change more character development rather than like the world.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I want to know how it'll impact all of the characters that we know and impact their like actions moving forward.
You know, this would be a very interesting question to ask after we have seen the Obi-Wan series.
Yeah.
Because I've always assumed that once like the fight on Mustafar happens, Anakin doesn't really care for Obi-Wan anymore. I mean, it just seems like he hates him like completely anyway. I mean, I feel like he would have tried to kill him anyway. But if in the Obi-Wan series they try and make it so Vader / Anakin does have a little bit of love left for Obi-Wan, then that could change a lot of things. I'm not sure.
It could be another test from the Emperor if it ends up being found out.
Yeah.
Yeah. It would just be like you said, like we really don't know what was going on between Vader and Anakin during this like really this kind of intermediate time. You know, personally I've always, you know, thought of it a certain way, but seeing how it'll actually end up will change it, you know, like you know, when he killed him, he did try, but what if he succeeded? You know, Anakin is very much corrupted by emotion, you know, in this sort of case. We saw that, you know, and afterwards we saw him kind of stew a little bit with his actions. You know, killing Obi-Wan is kind of the biggest action that he can take from like an Anakin sort of like standpoint. I would be so interested to see how that would have like, maybe it doesn't change anything with him, but changes things with such as Luke and you know all of that. So you know, either way would have some sort of ramifications. And I'm really interested to see how.
Yeah.
Hi, Vanessa.
I think it would definitely change Anakin a little bit. Well, you know what's funny? I know it's kind of a joke, but Brooke says still Darth Vader, just hotter. But but to turn that into a little bit of a serious note, I feel like when Vader was in his suit, that kind of kept him in the dark side because he was so miserable and in so much pain, and he just hated himself so much. If he was still a good-looking Hayden Christensen, maybe he wouldn't hate himself so much, and then he probably would have went to Padme, and maybe she would have stayed alive. I'm not sure, but yeah, I think it would definitely change Anakin's personality.
And it's funny because they lightly touched on that in the Revenge of the Sith, the video game, where there's actually is an alternate ending where during that duel he actually manages to leap over Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan misses the strike, and he ends up killing Obi-Wan. And then when he goes back to see Sidious, Sidious is completely blindsided by the fact that he had intentions of killing him as well. Gives him a new lightsaber. He's like, "Here's your new lightsaber, Darth Vader." And he's like, "Oh, hey, this is really cool." Stab. Ends up becoming the new force behind the Empire.
Interesting.
Yeah.
They don't go beyond that though, so it would definitely be interesting to see the overall ramifications going much further in.
I always loved that in the game. It's kind of it's been a long time, but if I recall correctly, it's kind of a game over screen of like you didn't do it right. But you're like, is it worse? I don't know. But
yeah, you're like, what? Like it seems just as bad. Yeah.
Although that's one of the things I actually really enjoyed about the sequel trilogy is it felt like that's close to what we were getting. So if Darth Vader is not a person McNugget, and he takes down Palpatine.
Mm-hmm.
Anakin is not equipped to run an empire. I'm sorry.
Oh,
I don't
no.
think he's emotionally
I was just thinking
stable
that.
or mature enough to do it either.
No.
He's not very forward thinking. He kind of would just be there and he'd just be like, ooh. He'd get like the invoices he'd have to look over, like everything he has to do to run an empire. Just like, I really should have thought this through.
He'd sit at the desk the first day and go, what do I do?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, if you think about it, would he even get? Would he even become emperor? Because like the Senate would be like, "Who the hell are you? Why are you the emperor now?" And he's just like, "Because I am."
Look at
They
me.
wouldn't they wouldn't take whiny Anakin seriously.
I think. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say one of my favorite movie reviews on YouTube when he was talking about The Force Awakens said if that's when somebody asked like, why would people just put Kylo Ren in power when he's like never run anything? And he's like, are you gonna go up to the space wizard and say no? He's the only one with that. Like nobody will tell Anakin if he came into power like that. No, and like they don't think he's gonna do a job, but they're just gonna.
We saw what happened when Hux tried that. He's like, the Supreme Leader's dead. You, the Supreme Leader? Slam.
Yeah. I'm enjoying the idea of Anakin like sitting at his desk and then bringing him like budget reports though. Like super mundane.
Tax policy.
Oh yeah. Like, okay, well, we have to talk about where we're going to set our borders, and like, oh, we have to get new, uniforms now because we've taken over the galaxy. Okay, where do you want to get the cloth from? Where are we going to colonize to get the? And he's just like, no, he's just like, what? I just fly ships.
He looks up at Masamita and goes, but I wanted to go to Tashi Station to get power converters.
That's all he wanted. That's all he wanted.
I do need to head out. I apologize for being so long.
No, it's my fault. It took me so long to get things started, but always a pleasure to have you. We'll have you on again, and yeah, you're the best.
It was an honor.
Nice meeting you. Have a good stream.
All right, bye everybody.
Bye. Have a good one. Awesome. And how about you, Aggie? Your prequel trilogy?
Oh, okay. Here we go. So, no. Well, I do feel obligated to mention this isn't particularly. I mean, I'd be interested in seeing this, but one of my friends online, Holly, who's also on TikTok, who's wonderful. She was like, "Where's my what if show? I want to see Obi-Dala, like if Obi-Wan and Padme were having an affair." Like she's like, "I want that." Like I'm like, so I feel I want to mention that for her. Somewhere her ears are pricking up. She knows someone's talking about Obi-Dala. But for me, like this is kind of weird. Well, it's Star Wars, but I saw a TikTok a little while ago, and it was like, oh, if you could change anybody's gender, any character's gender in Star Wars, who would it be? And and then people make the responses. They're really cool. And I was like, oh, I would want to make Anakin a girl. And for two reasons. One, so that all of the dude bros would be like, I hate Anakin now. I'm like, oh, interesting. And be the same exact character. But also because like, I was like, I don't know, like, I think it was like 3 a.m. and I was like having a crisis, like, when you can't sleep. They're Brooke. Yeah, for Brooke too, I should have said. I know Brooke loves Obi-Dala. But I had this idea of like, okay, so Anakin's a girl, Padme's a guy. And they like have this marriage, blah, 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 blah.
Are you an angel?
Yeah, right. It's even creepier somehow, I guess. Because now you got like this. That's even weirder. But let's ignore that for a moment. But I had this idea of so Anakin as a woman, like she's with Padme, and she gets pregnant, but she doesn't know she's pregnant. And so everything is the same. Like she fights Obi-Wan, but she doesn't get as hurt, right? So like, then the Emperor finds her, gets her, puts her in a, medical thing, whatever, and finds out she's pregnant and is like, oh, I know what I'm going to do. Keeps her kind of in a coma for 9 months. The babies get born, kidnaps the babies, and then like, or like sends them off to like, and like, then that kind of branches off. Like, and I'm like, what if maybe like the babies would get saved by the Rebel Alliance or like, or something like that. But when she wakes up, she's like, what happened? Why was I out for so long? And the Emperor would be like, oh, you had a child and it died. It's like, and it's like extra dark. Like, it's like even darker. Like, oh, you were pregnant, but the baby didn't make it.
Kill Bill in space.
What was that?
That feels very Kill Bill in space.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, very much so. Yeah, like it's like then she finds out she actually had her children are alive, and it's like, oh, and then I feel like I think the moment if Anakin was a girl, the moment she finds out that, or Vader rather, the moment she finds out that her children are alive and the Emperor hid them from her, she would just kill the Emperor. Yeah, she would just be like, oh no, and just kill the Emperor. And just be like, where are my children? But yeah, I was like, oh, that's kind of a cool idea. Fun.
Remember you told me that they died? Yeah, you're done.
Well, what's also really interesting is then male Padme probably wouldn't be dead unless he just died of sadness just on the spot instead of
good point. Yeah,
instead of through childbirth.
I kind of had the thought that that Anakin would kill him, but open, just no, you betrayed me, and more dead. But yeah, you're right. Like if there's no childbirth element there, would Anakin just or put Anakin? I'm getting mixed up now. Would Padme just drop dead? Like, oh, I'm so sad. That's interesting. I also have fun thinking about male Padme's outfits. That'd be fun.
Well, Padme's a fashion icon, so would male Padme also be a fashion icon? I guess.
Yes, absolutely.
Look back to
you wouldn't
Luke
call
Organa.
You wouldn't have handmaidens. It would just be like
your bros.
Your hand bros. Yeah.
The boys.
The boys.
The entourage.
For some reason, I just picture a bunch of guys wearing Nike tracksuits. I don't know.
Same. Velour instead of the robes. It's the same fabric. It's not velvety, but it's tracksuits. I'm obsessed.
No, but it's interesting because if the kids were taken, that would be similar to the twins that we're getting in Star Wars Visions, because they are twins of the dark side at some time post Rise of Skywalker. So kind of gives me some of those vibes as well. But no, I like it. I like it a lot. And
I have so many other thoughts about that.
Yeah,
the Attack of the Clones flirting scenes. How would that go?
Yeah. It's the one big defending, I guess. I mean, I like Anakin and Padme's relationship fine. It's a complicated relationship. Chaco and I have talked about this endlessly. But I still like it. I think it still works fine for Star Wars and George Lucas's writing. But one thing that I will defend until the day I die is the fact that you have I think can count on one hand the number of romantic relationships where the woman is older than the guy, in a major movie, and I'm just she's older than him and I will die on this hill, and that's just really cool. So if you flip it, then it's just every single other relationship
it's a big age gap. It's 5 years, 6 year difference.
Yeah, but Han and Leia was 10 years, Kylo Ren and Rey 10 years,
about 10.
But it also, you say that also made me think of the original Sleeping Beauty.
Oh man, yeah.
Because that original tale is rough.
I mean, most fairy tales are ugh. I think Snow White. I think Snow
goes
White's
to sleep.
12.
Well, in Sleeping Beauty, when she goes to sleep,
things happen.
She still gets married and ends up having 2 kids, who are 4 years old or whatever, before she wakes up. And I'm just that's interesting.
Great.
Camilla says gender bend Palpatine. I would love that. I need someone to use that the gender changing filter on Palpatine. I've seen them use them on Star Wars characters before. Anakin, it works. I haven't seen it on Palpatine, and I'm terrified.
Looks kind of like a Karen.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
Palpatine's
I guess makes sense.
Karen.
Makes sense. But...
Ooh, that's like even darker. Like, I mean, because but in a weird way, I guess, because it's like, because Palpatine's whole angle was like, I'm your dad. You want a dad, right? Son, I need your help. Like all his bullshit. Like, it'd be kind of interesting to see Anakin kind of get pulled between, like, his wife and his
mother figure.
Yeah, mother figure. Yeah, that's very interesting. Like, I'm all for. I love female villains so much, so that'd be cool.
Sheila Palpatine.
Sheila, yeah,
I love it. How about you, Anthony?
So Rayburn took one of mine. Thankfully, I had a backup. But also mine is kind of just, I think everybody's discussed this at one point or another. So I'm pretty sure you can see where I'm going to go with this. But what if Qui-Gon survived his duel with Maul?
Yeah.
That's one I always like to think about a lot, because I've always joked at the beginning about Qui-Gon, because there's always like the memes. There's even a video that says like Qui-Gon is the worst Jedi, and it's all the different jokes about how he messed up. And he's the reason why Anakin went in that direction. No, it is because Qui-Gon is an amazing Jedi, and I really feel that if he survived, and that's why even Dave Filoni talked about the whole thing of it being the duel. The reason why it's called Duel of Fates is because it's a duel for Anakin. It's his fate. Because if Qui-Gon was still around, I honestly feel like he could have kept Anakin from turning to the dark side, because he would have been more of a father figure than with Obi-Wan, who was more of like a brother. Being an older brother, as Obi-Wan was pretty much to Anakin, I have a younger brother, and you kind of let your younger brother slide when it comes to certain things more than you probably should. But with Qui-Gon, he would probably, even though he lets a lot more, he is not as strict as the rest of the Jedi. I do feel like he would still be somebody who would be that better father figure, be able to steer him in the right direction, kind of keep him on course, teach him a lot of things that kind of he knew as well, for him to find that inner peace and have that greater sense of the Force and everything beyond himself.
I often wonder though, because I feel like Anakin needed a stricter master, not a looser one. That's kind of how I've felt about it. I mean,
I think
Mace Windu.
Mace Windu would have been a good one as well. And I don't think necessarily that Qui-Gon would have been more loose. I mean, just his philosophy, yes, is not as strict as the Jedi. But I mean, as far as how he would regard Anakin, I definitely feel like he would, because we've seen him reprimand Obi-Wan. I mean, not like being overbearing in regards to it, but where he tells me, be mindful of the now, be mindful of the living Force, not just the cosmic Force. So that's why I feel that it would work out like that.
Yeah, I mean, yours is kind of somewhat brushing up against mine, which is if you read the book Master and Apprentice, Qui-Gon gets offered a seat on the council. Mm-hmm. What if he took it?
That would have been an interesting one as well. I think you would. Oh no, you say that right. What if he took it? Yeah.
Like if Qui-Gon was sitting on the council, and that meant that they would have someone that was more focused on the living Force on the council, but that would also mean that he would have to leave Obi-Wan as a student. So what would happen to Obi-Wan? Would he be able to find another master? He was already an old maid. Yeah.
And Anakin, they never would have found Anakin.
Yeah, I mean, who would they have sent? And they probably wouldn't have had to crash land on Naboo. But I don't know. I was just wonder that. Almas Evans says, "What if Quinlan Vos?"
That's it. That's it. Just Quinlan Vos.
Well, okay. So the character of Quinlan Vos,
love of my life,
was created because there was a guy that looked super cool in the Phantom Menace. But then, it makes me also ask the question: what if they saw him? What if Qui-Gon was like, "Oh, hey Quinlan, can we get a ride?" And he's like, "Sure, let's go back to Coruscant." And then there was no pod race, all that stuff.
He would have just been like this, like, "Bro, you're blowing my cover."
Probably. Goldman, What do you think?
This is so depressing because you guys have really good ones, and I could live up to that. The one I was thinking of was just kind of basic. Like, what if Padme didn't die? Like, what if she gave birth and just didn't die of being sad? How would? Because then there's no way Vader could hide the fact, or Palpatine could hide the fact that Padme was still alive from Vader. So Vader would tell the Emperor to screw off. I need to go find my wife, and he would probably find out that his kids are alive, but he's Darth Vader. He's not Anakin. How would Padme react to seeing Anakin like that? Because she said there's still good in him, right? That was like her last words. But would she always stay by his side and be like, yes, there's good? Would she be like Luke and say, no matter what, I'm still going to love you and try and save you?
I saw this girl do on that topic. I saw that this just made me remember. This is a long time ago too. I saw this really cool girl do this Padme cosplay. It was a TikTok video, and it was like super dark, and it was like really like it was really cool and edgy, and it was like Padme survives and she seeks revenge. I'm like, oh, I like that. Like I like she's like there's no love left. She's like, I'm gonna kill you. Like because I feel like because in the Padme books and in the Darth Vader comic, you see Sabe and her handmaidens form kind of like the Padme coalition, and they're like trying to find out what happened to Padme because they're like, this is bullshit. She didn't die of a broken heart. Like this is nonsense. So they like kind of run into Vader, and there's like back and forth there. But there's like a straight up like Padme ninja squad. And I'm like, what if she like led them and she was like, we're gonna kill my asshole ex-husband, and it's like the messiest divorce ever. Like that'd be really cool.
So I'm picturing this as a sitcom,
yes,
where Vader's full Vader. Obviously, he can't go back to the Jedi because he's destroyed them, and he can't get a regular job or whatever, but he still wants to be with Padme, but Padme's like not feeling it right now because of all the Clovis mess that happened recently, and then the latest murder.
Yeah.
So I'm just picturing like Padme moves back to Naboo to raise her 2 kids. And Vader is like this deadbeat dad who like has an apartment in the city. And he's like tries to come by and visit every now and then. And he's like,
is he wearing the black suit? Like always, like, hey, Padme, how's little Luke and Leia doing?
I get to see like the jingle theme, so it's like, hey, it's my dark side, Dad.
Oh my god!
Perfect. That's the title.
They stay. Luke and Leia stay with him every 2 weeks for the weekends. Like, oh.
No, you know what? Actually, then he gets calls from Palpatine. He's like, "Oh, I really have to go do this. I'm so sorry. I know we were gonna go to Magic Kingdom."
Another thing that crossed my mind is like, because there's the whole thing about him having visions of Padme dying, right? And Palpatine's like, "I can promise you that she won't die." So if she doesn't die, does that mean like Anakin would be more loyal to Palpatine? I feel like Palpatine would twist it because he's so manipulative. He'd be like, "Yes, your actions saved Padme's life."
That was me. I made that happen.
Yeah. So then I don't know how Anakin would react to that. Vader.
Yeah. I mean, I can see like going both ways of like, okay, I'm forever indebted to him. But so now essentially it's still the same show, except he's kind of like a traveling salesman. But he sells death to people, and then like comes back to Naboo every 2 weeks so that he can spend time, and try to rekindle his relationship. I don't know. I just see this as a hilarious like setup.
Yeah, this is just like, it's hilarious and like, but like also deeply sad. Like he's in like his van, like outside her apartment. He calls her and he's like, "I'm outside. Can you send the kids out?" Like, or he's like, "Can I come in?" She's like, "I'll send the kids out." Like, and it's like,
Leia doesn't want to see you this week. No.
They're in the car. Luke, he's like buckling Luke into his car seat. Luke's like, "Mom, Mom said that you're an asshole." He says like, Mom's like, it's like so like he's like, oh, like it's so funny.
Or even better, Daddy, can we go to the beach?
Yeah. Oh no. not today. It's so good. It's like those Vader and Son books.
Yeah,
but those are such cute books. My niece was like 4 hours old, and I was like, "Here are these books." Like I was like, "Here you go, I bought these."
Well, anything involving Padme, Corellia Cofferworks Haley once said in her life, so that's just perfect. Yeah, and then I have what if Padme never found out he turned because he became a mole inside of the Jedi Order instead of wiping them out. That might be interesting. Like they turned around and he was spying on them instead. But yeah, I mean, let's jump into the sequel trilogy. Let's see. Let's see what we got this time. I will start with Anthony. What do you got for a sequel? What if?
So mine actually goes back to the whole goody two shoes thing, and goes on a hill I will forever die on, and it's what if Finn actually went with Rey Tocto? That's the big one for me, because there's just so many hints even within The Force Awakens of his Force sensitivity, even from the get-go, and I really feel like Luke Skywalker would feel that upon their arrival, and I really think that it may have changed things at least a little bit. It would have started Finn on his journey towards becoming a Jedi.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I like that.
I mean, I will. I know a lot of people blame The Last Jedi for him being sidelined. I will forever die in the hill that no, he was sidelined in The Force Awakens.
He was.
Force Awakens ends with him in a coma and Rey
Yeah.
standing in front of Luke. And even though they did set him up to be Force sensitive, you know, he's the only person that, like, he physically looks at Hosnian Prime, which he can't see when everyone dies and stuff like that. He's the only person on screen that reacts to it.
And we see Kylo Ren look directly at him. Out of all the chaos and everything that's going on, he senses Finn. It looks directly at Finn. He stops in the middle of everything he's doing just to look at Finn.
Yeah,
he felt it too.
It was set up. I feel like it wasn't touched on more because of how The Force Awakens ended. Of like, well, Luke has to be the person to train. If he learns from someone else, then why does she go to him? And like, you know, I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard. It's like, because like I personally don't think I'd want Finn to go with Rey, but like, because like I feel like Star Wars does this thing where like I feel like a lot of times the show, like the creatives behind it, George included, like doesn't know what to do with like two Force sensitive protagonists. like I don't know, we only have time for one of them. Like we can't do two training montages.
That's why Qui-Gon died.
Yeah, very true. You know, it's but I personally think that you could still keep The Force Awakens pretty much the same way it was, and keep The Last Jedi the same way it was, but instead, like, you know, when they go to Canto Bight, he utilizes his Force sensitivity and kind of like learns more about his Force sensitivity while being there. And then so like he kind of has sort of like this internal kind of like self-discovery type thing, and Rey is like actually learning from a physical person, and then they kind of come together. You know, like this isn't like a rewriting podcast, but like I kind of like, that's how I kind of like was like, you could still do it, because I do think that if like Rey and Finn went, it would be kind of cluttered. It'd be a little kind of jumbled maybe. But I was like, you could totally have two separate Force journeys. Like they can have totally cool. The Force is infinite. It'd be like so cool.
I think,
but I like that a lot. I like imagining that too, though. Like, what if he went with her and like they like trained together? It's like so cute.
I think another really interesting thing with that, if Finn was there, I mean, Rey would still have her Force bonds with Kylo. Would she talk about that to Finn? Because there's no way she was going to express any of it to Luke, because Luke is just the grumpy old man. But she's, at that point, Finn's really her only friend, because, you know, she grew up with no friends on Jakku. So I feel like, would she open up to Finn about that and be like, yeah, yo, Kylo Ren's like, I see him shirtless, what I do? And maybe he'd probably advise her not to like go save him, and then he would never go to the supremacy, or she would never go to the supremacy. And then on the complete opposite side, Poe probably would have never constructed the plan to send Finn and Rose to Canto Bight and all that. So then the Resistance actually would have escaped on Crate. So everything probably would have been much better.
Yeah, that sounds ideal.
Not sidelining Finn just would have made things a lot better in general. So what seems to be what everybody's saying.
I love Finn.
Awesome. Also, we'll go to Goldman next, but also there was a question earlier in the chat of how do you sleep at night? You don't wake up and have Claude just terrify you standing over your bed?
No, I'm used to it. I've been doing it for like a year and a half now. But
Awesome.
yeah, I have my friends have said that. They're like, dude, the things like scare the crap out of you. I'm like, nah, I'm used to it.
If anything, you'd probably be more afraid if he woke up and it wasn't there.
Yeah, honestly.
Like a watchdog. My sister's best friend growing up had a life-size cardboard cutout of Fabio, if you recall Fabio, and he was like sweaty and holding a chain. So I would always.
What year was this?
Oh, this is 90s. This is 90s.
Well, I was about to say, I was honestly thinking the 80s. Like, I was like, was Fabio really big in the 90s? Yeah. I was like, what was it, 87? What do you mean? That's so funny.
I'd go spend the night at my friend's house, and I would always sneak in, take her cardboard cutout, and put it in the shower, and just wait. Fun times were about to happen.
Oh no!
If you're hopping in the shower and there's a big sweaty man there, like it's disconcerting, regardless of
you're either happy or terrified. Like there's no in between. Like there's no like you're either like yeah or like I would like shit my pants. I'd be so scared.
But sorry, Goldman. What's your scenario?
So I'm kind of going back to like a little small change that has a lot of ramifications. So what if Rey was never able to do the Jedi mind trick on the Stormtrooper? So then Kylo...
On Daniel Craig?
Yeah, on Daniel Craig. So Kylo would have come back, taken her to Snoke, and then Snoke probably would have been able to get the map out of her head. So then Kylo and Snoke, or just Kylo maybe, would have probably went to Octu, found Luke, and I don't know what happened there. The more interesting, Rey would probably still be under like capture by Snoke, and since Rey already has a lot of darkness inside her, she'd probably fall to the dark side. And yeah, or
I like that.
I think even more likely because Rey and Kylo would still have their dyad, right? At least I assume so. So they'd probably still team up. I feel like they would team up and kill Snoke, and probably very little would probably happen, but maybe.
Awesome.
I love it. That's really cool. Yeah, the small changes are just the smallest change can like change everything. It's true.
I mean, if he did, bring Rey to him, I wonder if that connection with Rey is part of what kind of kickstarted him from coming back. Also, understanding that he actually was cared for and all that stuff. And I think that once they got Rey, Kylo Ren might have become, old hat. I'm curious if that would just be enough catalyst to have him start looking towards the light, and then we have him and Jedi Finn fighting Darkseid Rey.
Because I feel like Rey has that more raw potential. So then Snoke would probably toss Kylo aside for Rey, and Kylo would be like WTF, and then Han would show up, and then maybe Kylo wouldn't kill him, or Kylo would kill him to try and impress Snoke, but it didn't impress him anyway. So I think it would definitely happen. That was the thing that people speculated about before The Last Jedi. It's like, could Rey and Kylo do the switch of one's dark side and one's light side now? I think that could have happened.
Yeah, if you think about it, because then at that point, Snoke was just the puppet, so to speak, of Palpatine. And once he would see Rey, he'd be able to sense that connection. He probably would sense that, this is a spawn of my Strandcast. This is basically a part of me. Mm-hmm. And yeah, we could have definitely taken it in that direction, because at that point, it'd probably be like, okay, I'm done with you, Kylo Ren. This is better. This is better. This is not great.
I mean, Kylo Ren is just his gopher. Like, he's just getting people coffee. Like, he's giving orders on the bridge. And I'm like, who are you? You're his, like, secretary. Like, you don't even know where the bathroom is, buddy. Like, it's really funny.
At the same time, like I said, would you say, who says no to a space wizard? A very angry and unstable space wizard.
Yeah, very true.
Yeah, you're either too afraid of him or too attracted to him to say no. one, the other, or both. My diet element 7. Thank you for the ramen. We always talk about the donations in forms of how much ramen we can buy with them. What if Quinlan Voss? No, but for real, what if Rey Kenobi? And I definitely had to bring it up because if Rey Kenobi, possibly Corky Kenobi.
Don't say Corky Kenobi 3 times. Julia will appear.
I mean, it's obviously it would be possible for him to have like,
of course,
a kid at another time, or it's someone with, what was her name, Anna Lee from the John Jackson Miller Kenobi book or whatever. But if it meant that Corky was actually his kid, and then Corky, had a kid, and maybe that kid had a kid, and it was Rey. Then they could have that reunion, and I would have loved to have Battle of the Heroes playing, except
except cool. It's you have the I've heard that thematic it's like poetry, it rhymes pitch before, and it's great. It's like the Kenobi actually saves the Skywalker. Like it's like instead of like the Kenobi loses the Skywalker, like it bookends it very well. Like and it would have been perfect because I love the rise of the Last Jedi, the Rise of Skywalker fight, because I love all the water imagery. I'm like, oh, it's the exact opposite of Mustafar. Like, oh, it's so good. Like I think that's so cool. Yeah, I was a Rey nobody stan, but I definitely appreciate Rey Kenobi too.
That's exactly where I was at as well. I mentioned that in chat, but Brooke basically in chat said the same thing. The poetry of the grandchildren of Anakin and Obi-Wan fighting and then reuniting. Like that's something.
Yes.
Like you can point out is just like there's the poetry behind that, especially because it still plays in that theme that we still would be getting, which is a Palpatine basically being converted over to. I just lost train of thought. Never mind. Good point.
No, either way, it is just a fun scenario, and Marilu, how about you?
Yeah, the sequel trilogy is it's tough in a way because I feel like the sequel trilogy is still so new, and people have like their opinions on it, and so like I sometimes feel like diving a little bit too deep into like the what if questions leads to like this is how I would have done it, kind of sometimes like like this is what, because I was initially kind of like I would have had Ben, because I have like basically like 2. I would have had Ben, like what if Ben left with Rey at the end of The Last Jedi, and she's like, no, come with me, and he's like, you know what, you're right, peace out. And he goes back to the Resistance, and they like all kind of become a team, and they sort of take down. I would have like Hux is the big bad or something instead, and he would have taken down the First Order together, kind of like that would have been really cool. But my big one is, of course, like much in the tradition, I guess, of me just gender flipping and flipping characters around or flipping roles, I guess. What if and this is like a pretty obvious one, but what if Rey was the bad, the Dark Apprentice, and Ben was the good, was the light, mostly because I love a female villain, but also because I am obsessed with like the boy squad we would have had. Like I'm obsessed with like Ben, Poe, and Finn, like their little boy squad. Like it would have been.
Been so what?
Oh no!
I'll never hear the end of it.
Disney silenced her.
Yeah, Disney's like, none for your sequel trilogy fan fiction. I canceled her.
Wait.
Okay. You got cut off.
I got cut off. Sorry, guys. I was just saying, like, it would have been so cute if like they would just made a really cute trio, like there's like the boys together, and like because I am a big like Finn Poe shipper, so like it's like super cute romance is developing, and Ben's just like hetero supporting on the side.
Like, the third wheel.
Yay! You're really cute.
Yeah, I mean, your guys' thoughts?
No, I absolutely agree.
I almost said the suspense is killing me
Oh,
because
God.
you're
Sorry. I
No,
don't know.
it's-
There's something with this app. This it's all good. I'm here. I'm back.
no worries. Camilla says, back on my gender bend train. What if gender bend Kylo?
Ooh.
And
That gives me Oh, go ahead.
Oh, we just get. I would like to see a Lady Ren. I think it would be funny.
Yeah, because it gives me big like Revan vibes. Because I know like in Kotar you can pick like male or female. So like so even though even though Lady Revan isn't technically canon, or whatever, who cares? Who gives a shit? It is cool that you can pick to kind of be a female Revan. It's like femme shep and that whole thing. And so, yeah, like so that kind of gives me like if you pick like the girl option to play as Revan, it's really cool.
I always pictured girl Kylo would be like the second sister. That's what a lot of people were saying anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, I do love me some second sister.
Me too.
I was like, oh, that's such a cool character, and then she took off the helmet, and I was like, boy, like,
yeah. Yeah. I was like, I'm gonna play this game now.
Do we have to be enemies?
Maybe if I talk to her a certain way, it's not that kind of game. Like, no.
This is
my
not a
dialogue
Bioware
options.
For me, one of the big ones that jumped to me is, what if in The Force Awakens, when they were running, they made it to the quad jumper?
And then it got blown up.
No, like, what if they were able to get in the quad jumper? It's a lot fast. I mean, they believed it would be faster. It's not. It probably isn't. But if they escaped on the quad jumper instead, then they wouldn't have run into Han.
They would have went to the resistance space.
But that relationship between Rey and Han, I feel like was a big starting point.
Yeah.
And also Finn not wanting to join any cause, that all kind of got changed through what was happening at Maz Kanata's castle and running into the other stormtroopers, being called a traitor and all that stuff. And I'm just curious if that small change, even though they would have eventually gotten to the resistance base, what that could have potentially changed. Han also wouldn't have been there in order to be killed by Kylo Ren. That was one of Kylo Ren's tests. Would he have had to hunt him down in order to try and prove that? And if he didn't kill Han, because that was kind of his, I'm feeling a pull towards the light, and this is his, screw this, I'm going all in on the dark.
Yeah. Pretty cool.
Absolutely, because there was so much symbolism in that scene, like the last beam of light that was shining through.
Oh, it's so good.
And then after he kills Han Solo, it disappears. Like that last bit of light that was shining through, physically as well as metaphysically, it's gone.
Yeah, I like it. Well, I'm sorry, guys.
Yeah, Han would have.
Sorry, I have to hop off.
It was nice meeting you.
Yeah, but I'll definitely. I had a great time. I love talking different scenarios. It's Star Wars. I love talking Star Wars. So thank you so much for having me on. And
absolutely. Lastly, you just want to let people know where they can find you again?
Just the Goldman YouTube channel. Make a lot of different Star Wars videos. Just kind of expressing my opinions, mostly positive stuff. That's what you're into.
Yeah.
Yes.
Great channel. Check them out. Thank you for coming, and I'd love to have you back in the future.
Of course. All right.
Bye.
Hey, guys.
All right, take it easy. And then there were two. They're dropping like flies. Am I that boring?
I don't know. Just to touch on what you said, though, as far as Finn is concerned, Finn really kind of latched on, imprinted, however you like to put it, to two people. That was, both Poe as well as Rey. I mean, he was very doe-eyes for Rey, and I don't think it would change too much. And maybe he may not have joined the Resistance, but wherever Rey went, he would likely follow. I mean, because that was his whole motivation when he woke up in The Last Jedi. The first thing, he said was Rey, and then he's just like, I need to find Rey. And when Rose found him, the reason why he was defecting is because he was trying to seek out Rey.
Mm-hmm.
So it probably would change things, but I don't think it would change at least his motivation to sticking with Rey wherever she goes. So he may have still joined the Resistance through her as a proxy.
Yeah, maybe, but we also have the added catalyst of she wouldn't have been kidnapped by Kylo Ren on Takodana.
Yeah.
And that
because her whole shtick was I got to get home. Like she was like, I have to go back to Jakku. I have to go back to Jakku. And I think if she hadn't had such a crazy adventure and met all these people and formed a connection with Han, because remember Han was like, oh, you want a job? Like you can work on the Falcon. I think maybe she would have gone back to Jakku, and maybe then Finn would have like gone off on his own if he doesn't want to join the Resistance. I mean, I know Finn's got doe eyes for Rey in the first movie, but like he's not living on. He hates Jakku. Don't you remember?
Yeah.
Jakku! Why does everyone want to go back to Jakku? So maybe she would have just gone home. Maybe she would have dropped him off and he would have had to find his own way. That would have been cool too in a way.
John Boyega is a handsome man. I think he might have found someone else as well.
But at the same time, I know a lot of people like to point out the fact that she did want to go back to Jakku, but at the same time, there is the moment where she like beams with excitement the moment that she hears that Finn is part of the Resistance. So there is that, that slight spark of adventure of wanting to seek something else out.
And also her not turning in BB-8 for that mountain of stuff that's would have kept her there and full for a long time.
Exactly.
True, very true. Yeah, and also like just looking at the structure of a movie, like that would make no sense. Like you spend all this time with this girl, and then she doesn't have like the character arc where she stays, and she's like, "No, I just go back to my planet." Like that'd make a terrible movie. Like that wouldn't make any sense.
No, let's see. A girl meets boy. They go on an adventure. Girl goes home. Yeah, it sounds realistic.
I mean, that just sounds like Wednesday. Yeah. This sounds like a normal day.
The interesting thing about doing what ifs with the sequel trilogy is the fact that, like, the other two are so unique in the fact that George Lucas did 4, 5, 6, and then 1, 2, 3. So when you're doing what if scenarios with the original trilogy, there's so much time between that and the next trilogy that a lot can happen, And then with the prequels, you still have to kind of there's a lot more framework with the first 6, and so when you're coming up with scenarios on the last one, it's wild. We don't have enough information to show crazy ramifications in the future because we only have this small story that takes place in 1 year. You know what I mean? I think that's interesting.
Yeah,
but it's
very
still
true.
It's still fun. That's why I still have my story pitches for that time period, and I still want to write a book where Tamiri Blagg, Broom Boy, becomes the next big bad of the galaxy.
It was brilliant. That was brilliant.
Oh, and a great point that Haley brings out. The conversation with Maz was so important. I think that really was an important part of the development of both. Well, of Han, of Han as well, of Han actually going back and facing Leia. They've been through a lot.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they split the mentor. The mentor is split basically in half. You have it's split between Han and Maz. So yeah, so Maz actually, because Han's not going to give you a force pep talk. It's just not going to happen. It doesn't. I mean, he believes in it.
That's not how it works.
It's not how it works. So you definitely do need another character to kind of give her that guidance. Yeah, it's so funny. I remember watching The Force Awakens, and the moment that Han is like, "Do you want a job? Do you want to work in the Falcon?" I'm like, "He's dead. He's dead." I was like, he's gonna die. He's offering her the mentor always offers, teaching or oh, we'll train together or whatever. And he's like, "You want a job on my ship?" I'm like, oh, so he's gonna, because I was like, someone's gonna die. I was like, oh, Han's gone. And then everyone's like, I can't believe Han's dead. I'm like, it's pretty telegraphed, guys.
Writing was on the
wall.
Benali says, what if Finn didn't take Poe's jacket? So much of the sequels banks on one piece of clothing. It's true. If he didn't take the jacket, then BB-8 wouldn't have recognized him, and they wouldn't have connected, and so a bunch of stormtroopers just would have busted in and just like murdered Finn, and then Rey would have been like, "That was weird." Anyways, what else are we doing?
That's the eighth person I've seen executed today. Anyway,
Element 7 says, "What if Hux was an actual spy?" I mean, we know he was leaking information in the but he was
obsessed.
He was not. He was not subtle. I'm the spy, and you're like, Jesus Christ, I know.
I love him. I love him so much. I don't know. I just but if Hux was if Hux like was a long-term spy. Can you imagine? Yeah, can you imagine Hux being subtle? Like, no, it's not gonna work. Like, but I do like the idea of him like being a mole, maybe from the very beginning. Like, that'd be kind of fun. Like he actually doesn't have a British accent. He's just like, my name's Greg. Like he's like super. It's like all up front. It's all a performance. He's like
southern drawl too.
Yeah. He's just like, oh yeah, no. He's like, they're like, why do you have a British accent? He's like, because I'm with the First Order. Like they're all English. They noticed me. I mean, for Christ's sake, God, what's his name? What's Thrawn's buddy's name?
Eli Vanto.
Eli sticks out like a sore thumb. Thrawn's not the only one who sticks out like a sore thumb with that southern accent.
I mean, I'm picturing like Hux trying to do spy stuff, but he's like super tall with bright red hair, and then like someone be like, did someone suspicious? What? Yes, this is exactly what he looks like. I took a picture of him because he looks so suspicious in here that I figured someone would come in looking for him at some point. Like I feel
Did you see a fluorescent man walk through here? Yeah, there he goes. Yeah, he glows in the dark. He's been outside in years.
Inglourious Bastards in space.
Yeah. I love it.
I want my Imperial scouts.
Yo, get me my scalps.
Awesome. I love it. Well, all right. So do we have any more honorable mentions? We kind of hit all the Brian says, damn, y'all got a lot of ginger jokes. Sorry.
I'm super pasty.
Love you, man. Love you, man. I just said he'd be noticeable.
Yeah.
But yeah, any other honorable mentions?
I have one, but it's a rabbit hole that we there's not enough time to go down. Which would have been, what if Luke
but you have to say it now.
What if Luke tried to help Ben the moment he felt the darkness within him? Because remember the story that he told.
I'm just sad.
Is that he felt the darkness, but he thought because he was, the great legendary Luke, that he could still help him along the way. That's why he said the whole line about, by the time I took it serious, it was too late. What if he took it serious earlier? Or what if he got Leia involved or other people? What if he wasn't as, I don't want to say neglected, but kind of just kid-gloved as much?
Yeah, I mean, we do know.
The question is, what if... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No,
I was going to say, so the question is, what if Luke was a responsible adult? Interesting. What if Luke paid attention to the emotions of a child? Oh, that was under his responsibility. No, go ahead, Chaco.
Brian of the Pink Boat podcast says, what if there were more gingers in space?
It'd be wonderful. It'd be wonderful.
No, I was gonna say though that we do end up finding from the books that they kind of always took it seriously, and Ben having the dark side tendencies is why Ben was set to him in the first place. Of like, he was a little boy at home who would throw a temper tantrum, and then the kitchen breaks. Like, like, I don't know what to do with this kid. You take him, but no, that is interesting.
No, it is true. It's like I actually think that could maybe even work its way into like my pitch of like, what if Rey was the bad guy? Because like maybe like Ben is like, hey, I've been there. Like I've been like on that precipice. Like I see you. Like it's okay. Like that could kind of factor into his sort of his own that'd be actually making a very interesting hero's journey for him. It'd be very similar to kind of like what Luke goes through with like the darkness and the light and yeah, like that'd be, except it wouldn't just be, you know, like a couple of moments like it was. Well, I mean, I might be generalizing a bit with Luke, but like it would have been like Ben's whole character arc would have been like, I'm towing the line. Like Skywalker's like have light and dark in them, you know, and the darkness runs in our blood. Like, so I see you, like, you know, that would have been a really cool way for him to empathize with like a dark side Rey or something, you know, because someone's got to be a bad guy, right? So like whoever the bad guy is, you know, Ben would kind of empathize with. It wouldn't just be kind of that clear-coded like good and evil type thing. That'd be really cool. I love that idea.
You still have your bad guy because it was Palpatine all along.
Dun, 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 dun.
He's not empathizing with Palpatine though. He's like, you're the reason for everything horrible that's ever happened to my family. I'm not empathizing with you. What if Luke didn't kidnap the baby?
Which I gotta say, it always kind of makes me chuckle because I feel like, at least in my comment sections, I get a lot of back and forth stuff of like, it's wrong for the Jedi to take children. It was so cool at the end of The Mandalorian when Luke showed up and took that child, and you're like,
the double standards is.
The Jedi were terrible and wrong, and they should have ended. I hated when Luke said the Jedi need to end.
yeah. I see that quite a bit too. It's like, wait, no, that's not how this works. That's not how the Force works.
Yeah. What if Rey invited Ben to join her, and he did? Or
like dark side Rey or light side?
I mean, the way this is phrased, it sounds light side, but I often wonder the other. If when Kylo Ren said, "Take my hand," she did. And then they ruled the galaxy together, and then that's when Finn had to come and save everyone. Love it. But he said yes,
light side. Oh, I love.
Grogu was like 50, weren't they? Yes, Grogu was 50, but Grogu was still a baby. I mean,
if you can't feed yourself, like, I mean, you know, I mean, to be fair, many old people can't do that either. But like, yeah, if you're like in the early stages of your life and you still can't feed yourself, like you're a baby. Sorry, you're an itty bitty boo.
Yeah,
I always wondered, like, if he like, did Grogu wear a diaper? Like, what did he like? Was Din like cleaning up after him? Like, I don't know. Was he like a hamster? Did he put him in a hamster cage?
There's certain things that in Star Wars in general that's best not to dwell on.
Like, we just don't think about.
How did Grogu walk so fast sometimes when he was super slow? Like in the frame, he's like moving at a snail's pace, and then you turn around and he's like over there, and you're like, how did he do that? You know,
it's like Gizmo.
Exactly.
Force speed.
And then the obvious one of like shooting a panel, what does it do? Whatever you want it to do, apparently. Sometimes it opens doors, sometimes it closes them, sometimes it locks them. One time it closed the door halfway. I don't know. All right, so just to kind of wrap things up, other than what other content does Star Wars need? And then we'll go around and then have you say any closing thoughts and where we can find y'all and your amazing stuff. We'll have Aggie go first.
What does Star Wars need? Well, I still want my Finn book. I really want my Finn novel, really, because we've been talking a lot about Finn tonight, and I'm just like, I want my Finn novel so bad. But I also want, you know what I really want? This isn't even what Star Wars needs. This is just what I want. I want the freaking the animation style from those Galaxy of Adventures. You know, those little shorts on YouTube?
Yeah.
Yeah. The Galaxy Adventure animation style. I want that. I want to show that. Give me that. I want that so much. It's so cool.
It is so good.
It's so good, and it's so fluid and awesome. I think that if they did a show like that, that would be wonderful. I mean, any animation, anything animation, I'll take. I want like a little bit, maybe a little bit more sequel content. Like I want my Finn book. I'd love to see like a Finn Rey show. That would be really, really cool. What they need though, honestly, I agree with like what basically you were saying at the end of last week's, or no, I would think it was last Dyad episode about how like Star Wars needs more weird stuff. Like Visions is weird and it's like wacky, and I couldn't agree with you more. I want weird experimental stuff. The weirder it is, the more into it I am. I love all the stuff we've been getting. I actually, controversial opinion, I actually, Bad Batch is actually my favorite show from Dave Filoni.
Oh wow!
So far,
Nice.
I really loved Bad Batch. I just really enjoyed it. But I know all the criticisms, and I actually agree with all the criticisms, but I really don't care. But yeah, you're right. It's like it's fun and it's great, but it's like the Mandalorian and all this stuff. It's like it is safe in a way, and I want the weird stuff. So anything weird or experimental, like I want them to like get Denis. I want Denis Villeneuve to direct a Star Wars movie. Like give me that. Like give me that weird film art house, but like high budget stuff. I would love that. So the weirder, the better. I agree with you.
I love it. I have to point out that Brooke broke Star Wars by asking, "What if R2 had a gun?" Then no one would be alive. That would end Star Wars. Anakin wouldn't have turned, because R2 would be like, "Nah, I love you, buddy, but you're going down a path we can't follow." Like,
the second he started choking Padme, he would done.
Yeah. Now I'm imagining this like really dramatic scene though of like Anakin's like, I will become the next whatever, and I'm gonna turn to the dark side, and it's on him, and then you just hear the gunshot, and he's like, he falls, and like behind him in the frame is like R2 with the gun, like, and it's smoking. He's like,
with the sad noise,
buddy.
And then Brown with the Beard says, "Chopper was the gun."
Yeah, I was about to say, I thought of Chopper. I was like, oh, you mean the most violent creature in the world? I love Chopper.
What if Star Wars didn't squander its characters of color? We're not going to talk about that.
That's the question.
Camilla says, "Bring Resistance back." Camilla, I'm going to reach out to you separately. September 15th, I'm doing a Resistance episode that I want you on. But we need more people to watch it, because it does need some more respect. Start slow, but season 2 was, I watched in one sitting. I thought season 2 was really good. But yeah, Rated Comics Roll. What is your idea for what Star Wars needs? And well, also real quick, Mary Lou, where can we find you?
Oh, you can find me on TikTok. I'm on Miss Eggy on TikTok, Miss Eggy28 on Twitter. And yeah, that's it. I've been kind of trying to kind of get the creative juices flowing and trying to get some ideas for new videos and stuff, because I've hit a bit of a dry, like kind of like a, you know, I kind of have like creative block right now. So I'm just trying to think of like some fun stuff to do. So, but I have some ideas for the future. So hopefully I'll be posting more and keeping it fun. But yeah.
I mean, the first time I found Miss Eggy's content, it was she would just drink a bunch and rant about Star Wars, and it was just the best. I wish that would come back, but
I can't keep doing that. But I should do a ramble, another drunk ramble one day. That'd be fun.
But yeah, Anthony, what does Star Wars need?
All right, so I'm going to go more into the gaming side of Star Wars. I was really disappointed when Star Wars 1313 was canceled. I love Jedi. Don't get me wrong. I love Jedi. Some of my favorite characters are Jedi. I love the Force, the aspect Force. Everything about the Force is great. But I would really like to see more of just the universe, even from like a smuggler's perspective. Give me a game either like Star Wars 13, or even give me, I guess if we are going to have Jedi, at least have Jedi be an option rather than the default. Give me like a Dragon Age / KOTOR style RPG where you can choose your origin. So we don't necessarily have to be a Jedi, but it still plays in this grander story. That, or I would say, give me a show that focuses, like I said, on that smuggler style party, almost in the vein of Firefly, just to see that side of the universe. And I feel like The Mandalorian touched on that within maybe at least the first episode, and even in some of the other episodes, but then like almost all other Star Wars projects, it just jumped right back into Jedi and the Force.
Okay, I like it. I'm for it. I'm for it. I just started playing Ghost of Tsushima, and I feel like that needs
How
to
is
be.
it?
It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. It's I put it off because I was like everyone kept raving about it, and I was like it can't. It's the same old formula. It can't be that much different than all the other stuff, and it is so far, and it's really engaging. And I think that would function well as one of two things. Same formula, either a Mandalorian game, where because the Mandalorian have somewhat similar elements of these warrior nomad tribes and going to war with one another and all the stuff and having it destroyed the homeland that's basically taken over and trying to go around and reclaim your honor and stuff. I can see that, or same exact thing except it's High Republic, but you are you're Ty York and you're hunting monsters and stuff. Like
I kind of saw that coming.
Yeah. It was low hanging fruit, but delicious fruit. And then the second one I think is if we did something Skyrim-y, I wouldn't want you to choose your origin. I would want the character to essentially be force sensitive, but that's not the point. Like the game, you are a smuggler, you are a bounty hunter, you're doing this stuff, you're going through this world, and if you so choose during your adventures, you can maybe go into a store and find an ancient Jedi artifact, and by finding those things, you can start to raise like force things of or a Sith, and maybe gain certain things like a little bit of precognition, stuff like that. But like you would have to play through it twice to end up being a Jedi. You know what I mean?
Yeah. If you're doing the tie game, you could do like a side quest as Bell. I just want to play as Bell. I just love him so much. I'm very worried about him. Now I'm just thinking about the High Republic, and I'm like, I have anxiety.
We got what if Ventress wasn't fridged?
No.
A lot.
I do love that story. The story developed her too much for me to truly consider her being fridged.
I do agree, yeah.
Because also it didn't like all it did is just break Quinlan Voss, and then like he was just sad the rest of his life. You know what I mean? It wasn't like a motivation to greatness.
I use these pages to dry my tears. Yeah, it's. I agree with you Chaco. I've had people ask me that question before, like, oh, do you think Ventress was fridged? And I'm like, no, because she completes a character arc. She completes her own character arc and has her own emotional journey. If she like
character.
Yeah, she was an actual character. Yeah.
If anything, it was Quinlan that kind of got like when Quinlan was taken. That was a catalyst for a lot of her development.
Yeah, very true. Yeah, his fall really motivated her. Yeah, it's a very interesting. I love that. I love Dark Disciple so much. It's very good. There's the third act is a little wonky in my opinion, but it's still absolutely fantastic.
It doesn't handle big reveals well. There's like, oh yeah, it was this person. Like, oh
yeah, same.
Okay.
I agree. I remember we were talking about that. I was like, I would have revealed that like they like explain what happened to him like in the last 3 pages, and I'm like, what? Reveal your hand a little sooner, because the entire time I'm like, what's going on with him? Is he evil or is he not evil? Like, what's going? He's like, I did turn, and I'm like, don't say it like you went to the grocery store, buddy. Like, what do you mean? Like, but yeah, it was still really good though.
So if anyone in the chat hasn't read Dark Disciple, go read it.
Sorry.
No. You said he. We don't even know who you're talking about. Also, buy the audiobook if you want to hear Southern Mace Windu. It's pretty funny.
That threw me off.
Young Skywalker.
It was weird. I was like, who's talking? It's like, oh, is this Mace? Oh, okay.
But Anthony, where did you let us know where we can find you and your awesome stuff?
So you can find me on YouTube. I'll just go through the whole thing again. YouTube, TikTok, Twitch, Twitter, and Instagram. That's actually how we became friends, was through TikTok.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've been wanting to have you on for a while, and I was like, okay, I mean, he does comic content as well, so what if will be right up his alley. So I appreciate you coming on. Shout outs to everyone in the chat, Benali, Isaac, Camilla, Connor, Brooke. Always Brooke with Far Away Factory. Check them out if you want some dope stuff. She's the best. Xanatos, Element 7, Brian of the Pink Milk podcast. If you want to hear things they get saucy over there. Nomad, Haley at the Corelli Coffee Works. We just have an awesome community here. I thank you guys for always showing up and supporting. Ace in the chat. Calfora is always just a great guy. So thank you everyone for coming out for this What If Star Wars Had a What If. I appreciate all of y'all.
Appreciate you having me on here.
Yes,
absolutely.
Thank you.
We will do it again, but for now, may the Force be with you always.
May the Force be with you.
May the